Kira Voss had never intended to become a symbol of defiance. She wasn't a soldier, wasn't a genetically modified superhuman, and certainly wasn't anyone the galaxy would consider dangerous. She was of all things a teacher. But on the day she stepped into the Obsidian Concourse, home of the deadliest combat arena in the Orion Expanse, every alien within 10 kilometers fell silent. A human, an unaltered human, had voluntarily registered for the Gauntlet of Champions. The arena's registration officer, chitin-plated Browcoon with four glassy black eyes, stared at her application in disbelief. "You understand the rules?" it rasped. "No weapons provided. No armor except what you carry. Survival statistics for humans remain at 0%. Kira simply tightened the straps on her lightweight shock harness. "I understand." She didn't tell them she had spent 12 years studying alien combat physiology for her students back on Vega Station. She didn't tell them she had trained in 6 different martial traditions, 3 human, 3 alien. All she said was, "Put my name on the board." The betting screens flickered alive immediately. Kira Voss, human, win probability, 0.4%. Round 1 survival, unlisted, assumed 0%. Alien spectators burst into laughter. A few recorded her for their social nets, tagging her as the fragile one. Then the arena master himself descended from the upper platform, his voice amplified through the entire stadium. "No human survives round 1, he proclaimed. "Not in my arena." Kira looked up at him with calm, steady eyes. "Then I suppose," she said, "you're about to witness something new." The crowd roared with anticipation. The arena master lifted his clawed hand and pointed toward the black steel gates. "Enter, human, and face the one they call Rathuun the Breaker." But Kira didn't flinch. She exhaled once, slow and controlled, the breath of someone who had already accepted the cost. "Open the gate," she whispered. The ground trembled. The first round was about to begin. The arena lights dimmed to a blood-red glow as the gate chains groaned and pulled. The crowd's laughter died instantly, replaced by an uneasy silence that slithered across the stands like cold fog. All eyes fixed on the widening gap in the black steel door. A shape stepped through, massive, hunched, and armored in natural plates the color of volcanic rock. Rathuun the Breaker. He stood nearly 3 meters tall, each limb thick enough to crush a human torso without effort. His hands weren't hands. They were crushing mauls of bone and keratin. When he exhaled, the vapor steaming from his jaws curled in the cold arena air like smoke from a furnace. "This is where you die, human," Rathuun rumbled. His voice resonated deep, a subsonic growl that vibrated through Kira's ribs. Kira didn't respond immediately. She simply watched him move, cataloging the gait, the build, the breathing pattern. Her eyes weren't afraid. They were analyzing. The Breaker noticed. "You study me," he barked. "Pointless. Your bones will shatter before your thoughts finish forming." Kira smiled softly. "Maybe, but we'll see." A hum echoed through the Colosseum as the barrier fields snapped into place around the combat ring. Spectator safety, one of the few arena rules consistently enforced. Not for Kira's sake, but to keep Rathuun's violence from spilling outward. The arena master's voice boomed from above. "Round 1, begin." Rathuun charged so fast the sand erupted behind him. It was like watching an avalanche sprint. The ground quaked with every impact of his feet. Spectators leaned forward, expecting human blood to paint the arena floor. Kira didn't run. She didn't even take a step back. She waited until Rathuun's shadow engulfed her, then moved. A pivot, a breath, a slip just out of reach. Rathuun's massive arm slammed into the stone pillar behind her, shattering it into shards. The stadium gasped. Kira was now at his flank, sliding low with a precision that was almost surgical. She tapped the plate under his rib, one of the 3 structural weak points she recognized from the xenobiology text she used to teach. Rathuun roared in shock, stumbling 1 step. A human shouldn't have been able to evade him. A human shouldn't have known where to strike. A human shouldn't have survived the first 5 seconds. But Kira wasn't done. Round one isn't over, she said quietly, taking her stance again. The crowd erupted into chaos. The arena master leaned forward, suddenly alert. For the first time in the arena's history, a human had made Rathuun miss. Rathuun roared, a sound like tearing metal, and lunged again, this time with real intent to kill. His plated arms blurred in a frenzy, swinging in wide arcs that could bisect a hovercraft. Each impact against the ground sent waves of dust spiraling upward. But Kira wasn't there. Every time his fists came down, she had already moved, sidestepping, rolling, slipping through narrow gaps in his reach. It wasn't speed. It wasn't strength. It was training. Rathuun slammed both fists down in a double hammer blow that cratered the arena floor. Stand still and die. Kira's voice floated behind him. You telegraph your movements. Your weight shifts before each strike. 0.4 of a second early. Rathuun spun with a savage backhand, but she ducked cleanly beneath it. And your center of balance drops when you commit to a charge, she added. You mock me, he thundered. No, Kira's tone was calm, almost instructional. I'm explaining. The crowd was no longer laughing. Thousands leaned forward, suddenly understanding. She was teaching. In the deadliest arena in the galaxy, she was lecturing her opponent. Kira stepped in, feinting right and slipping left, then delivered a precise strike under Rathuun's lower thoracic plate. A precise nerve cluster she memorized from Academy medical charts. Rathuun bellowed as his left leg buckled. How? How does a frail meat creature know these things? Kira inhaled, her posture perfectly centered. Because I studied you. She glanced up at him, eyes sharp. I study everything. Rathuun thundered a fist forward again, but his left leg faltered at the same moment. Kira had disrupted the neuromuscular linkage. He collapsed to one knee, shaking the arena with the impact. Gasps exploded from the stadium. A human, dropping Rathuun to one knee? Unthinkable. The announcers sputtered across the hollow feeds. What is she doing? Rathuun has never been forced off balance. Is this human actually winning? The arena master's expression hardened. This wasn't amusing anymore. This was a breach of expectation, of tradition. The gauntlet was built on predictable spectacle. Humans were meant to lose. But Kira stepped in front of Rathuun, her breathing slow and even, her fists raised, not with the confidence of a warrior, but with the steady patience of an instructor beginning her lesson. Class is in session, she murmured. Rathuun roared and surged upward again, and Kira struck first. Say continue when you want section 4. Vous avez dit. Continue. ChatGPT edit. Section 4. The shift in power almost equals 2,000 characters. Kira moved first, not because she was faster, but because she knew exactly when Rathuun would rise. His muscles bunched, his torso twisted. His injured left leg compensated with a half-second delay. To the audience, it was imperceptible. To Kira, it was a neon sign. Her fist shot forward like a piston. She struck the junction between two armor plates on his chest. One of the only places not triple reinforced on his species. A sharp crack echoed. Rathuun staggered back, eyes wide with disbelief. Impossible, the arena master growled from above. A human cannot breach a Threxian's anterior plating. Kira shook out her hand once, wincing slightly. Not breach, exploit. Rathuun roared, charging like a freight engine. Kira sprinted, not away but toward him. The audience gasped. She dove sideways at the last second, slid on one knee beneath his swinging arm, and drove her elbow into the soft tissue under his ribline. A spot Rathuun warriors protected obsessively. Because it hurt. A lot. Rathuun collapsed forward, skidding through the dust with a teeth-rattling impact. The entire arena fell silent. Even the announcers were speechless. No human had ever done this. No human had ever gotten this far. Most never lasted more than 6 seconds. But Kira? Kira was dismantling a champion with surgical precision. Rathuun rose, trembling with fury. His mandibles clicked violently, a sign of fear disguised as rage. You fight like no human, he snarled. Kira circled him calmly. I fight like a human who learned your weaknesses. Rathuun bared his fangs. Weaknesses? We have none. Everyone has weaknesses, she replied softly. You just hide yours behind bravado. The crowd murmured, aliens whispering to one another in disbelief. She reads him like a data chart, not strength analysis. Adaptation. Is this what humans are truly capable of? Rathuun slammed a fist into the ground, sending a shockwave outward. Kira hopped back lightly. He snarled, I will crush you. She smiled faintly. Then stop announcing your intentions. Rathuun launched forward recklessly. Kira pivoted left, stepping inside his strike zone. Her heel snapped upward in a clean, precise kick that connected directly under his jaw. A stunning blow. Rathuun reeled, arms flailing. Kira stepped back, hands raised, breathing steady. You're strong, she said gently, but you're predictable. The Titan blinked, stunned, not by the pain, but by her tone. She wasn't taunting him. She wasn't mocking him. She was evaluating him. And that terrified him more than any weapon ever could. Humans, Rathuun whispered, shaking his head. You are nightmares wrapped in soft skin. Kira tilted her head. No, we're just good at learning. He charged again, determined to prove her wrong. But the tide had shifted. Everyone in the arena felt it. Kira wasn't surviving anymore. She was winning. Rathuun lunged with a desperate fury, the kind born not from confidence, but from the dawning realization that the impossible was happening. A human was outclassing him. He swung one massive arm downward in a crushing arc. The impact cratered the ground, stone shards flying like shrapnel. But Kira slipped under the blow, rolled once, and sprang back to her feet with a fluid elegance that made the audience gasp. She wasn't fighting like a gladiator. She was moving like a dancer. Rathuun spun, sweeping his leg in a powerful arc meant to take her off her feet. Instead, Kira jumped lightly, her boots clearing his shin by mere centimeters, and landed behind him. I warned you, she said gently. You rely too much on brute force. Rathuun snarled, and you rely too much on. Kira struck the back of his knee. A precise, surgical blow. Rathuun roared and collapsed onto both knees, the arena floor cracking beneath his weight. The stadium erupted in chaotic noise. Some screamed, some cheered, many simply stared, unable to reconcile what their eyes were telling them. The announcers finally found their voices. Rathuun is down again. This cannot be happening. She's folding him like a training dummy. What is this human? Kira walked around him slowly, expression calm. Her pulse was steady. Sweat dotted her brow, but her breathing remained rhythmic, controlled. Rathuun glared up at her. You think this proves anything, little teacher? Kira stopped in front of him. It proves everything. He swung wildly, one last desperate punch aimed straight at her heart. Kira stepped into the blow. Not away. Into it. Her hand snapped upward, catching his wrist at the hinge of two overlapping armor plates. Her other hand twisted sharply. Rathuun howled as his own momentum betrayed him. Kira redirected the force, guiding him sideways in. The Titan slammed into the ground face first. A tremor rippled through the arena. The crowd went silent again. Aliens of every shape and species stared down, many suddenly conscious of their own vulnerable anatomy. If a human, one small, unaugmented, unenhanced human, could dismantle a Phyrexian champion, what did that mean for them? Kira stepped back, dust settling around her. You're strong, she said quietly, but strength without adaptability is a chain. And chains only hold until someone smart enough learns where the links are weak. Rathuun pushed himself up shakily. His pride was bleeding far worse than his body. You broke me, he rasped. Kira shook her head. I didn't break you. I taught you. For the first time in his long career, Rathuun looked afraid and enlightened. Kira raised her hands. Ready? The fight was far from over. Rathuun rose slowly, much slower than before. Not because he was physically incapable, but because something deeper had fractured. His certainty, his role, his understanding of how the universe worked. A human was not supposed to do this. A human was not supposed to teach a Threxian champion anything except how fragile their bones were. But Kira Voss was standing in front of him, hands up, feet grounded, posture patient. Like the arena was simply another classroom, and he was simply another student refusing to learn. Rathuun's breaths came ragged, echoing across the now silent stadium. Thousands of aliens leaned forward. Something fundamental had changed in the air. Kira Voss, Rathuun rumbled, using her full name now. What drives you? Pride? Honor? She tilted her head. Neither. Then why fight? Kira stepped forward one pace, just one, and somehow that single movement made Rathuun flinch. Because you all assume humans survive by luck, she said. Chance. Coincidence. Mistakes in your calculations. Her hands remained steady, her gaze unwavering. But that's not why we survive, she continued. We survive because we adapt, because we analyze, because we refuse to stay in whatever box someone else builds for us. Rathuun swallowed thickly. You speak like no warrior. I'm not a warrior, Kira said simply. I'm a teacher. A ripple of confusion moved through the audience. A teacher? A teacher was doing this? Kira's next words hit harder than any strike she had thrown. And you're making the same mistake everyone here made. You think humanity's strength comes from our muscles or our weapons. It doesn't. Rathuun rose to his full height, shaken but no longer enraged. Then what, he asked quietly, is your strength? Kira breathed deep. Our strength is that we study our enemies. We learn, we adjust, and we never, ever accept a predetermined ending. Up in the observation booth, the arena master's expression twisted. This was becoming dangerous, not physically, but culturally, ideologically. Arenas didn't break underdogs. They reinforced hierarchy. And this human dared to invert the pyramid. Rathuun nodded slowly, mandibles tight. Then show me, teacher, show me this human factor. Kira raised her fists again, slipping effortlessly into a defensive stance. I've been showing you, she said softly. But if you need a clearer demonstration. Dust swirled around her boots as she squared her shoulders. Then let's continue the lesson. Rathuun roared, but this time it wasn't anger. It was respect, and the arena, sensing something monumental, leaned into the moment with collective breath held. Rathuun charged, not with rage, not with reckless force, but with purpose. For the first time since the match began, he moved like a true champion, balanced, calculating, disciplined. He had stopped underestimating her. That alone made him twice as dangerous. The arena trembled under his steps. His shadow swallowed Kira as he closed the distance. His arms moved in a coordinated two-strike pattern, one high, one low, designed to force opponents into a single lethal mistake. This time, Kira didn't evade either blow. She stepped directly between them. The crowd screamed. Even the announcers shouted warnings. But Kira had measured the angles perfectly. Rathuun's fists passed on either side of her, missing by inches. The shockwaves blew her hair back, but her posture held firm. Rathuun blinked in disbelief. You predicted. Your species isn't the only one with instincts, Kira said. Mine just look different. She pivoted sharply, landing 3 rapid strikes along the inner tendons of his right arm. High, mid, low. To Rathuun, the blows felt like insect bites. But to his anatomy, they acted like carefully placed disruptions along a nerve line. His arm spasmed violently. Rathuun stared at it in horror. It wouldn't obey him. What did you do? Disabled your primary striking limb, Kira said. Temporarily. You can do that. Kira shrugged. Human hands are small. Makes it easier to hit the precise spots. The crowd was losing their minds. Shock, awe, fear. A few species recoiled instinctively, covering their nerve clusters without even realizing it. Rathuun switched stance, adopting a one-armed counterform. His eyes narrowed, not in anger, but in concentration. Then I must adapt as well. Kira nodded approvingly. Good. That's step 1. Rathuun lunged again, sweeping low. Kira backflipped, something she'd hoped not to need in this fight, and landed lightly, ribs screaming in protest. Pain lanced through her side, but she pushed it aside. The arena sand shifted slightly under her boots. She recalculated her footing in real time. Rathuun attacked again. This time he didn't overextend. This time he didn't roar threats. This time he didn't rely on brute strength. He tested her, probed her guard, adjusted his stance based on her reactions. That's it, Kira murmured between breaths. Now you're learning. Rathuun threw a complex 3-hit combination. Feint, strike, sweep. Kira dodged the first, blocked the second, but the sweep caught her ankle. She stumbled. The crowd erupted, hope surging through Rathuun supporters. Rathuun lifted both arms, ready to slam her into the earth. But Kira rolled aside and kicked sand directly at his sensory pits. Rathuun recoiled with a roar. A dirty tactic, he spat. Kira rose, wiping blood from her chin. A practical one. He blinked, stunned. You are unlike any opponent I have faced. Kira steadied herself. That's because you've never fought someone who sees the battlefield as a puzzle instead of a proving ground. Rathuun lowered his massive stance. Then solve this puzzle, human. Kira inhaled. She could. She would. But her ribs burned. Her vision blurred for a moment. She tasted copper on her tongue. The next exchange would decide everything. The arena master had watched thousands of deaths in his lifetime. He had cataloged every species' weaknesses, studied their nervous systems, analyzed their combat responses. But humans annoyed him. They were unpredictable, chaotic, and far too stubborn to behave like every other organism in the galaxy. Now, watching Kira butcher his carefully arranged tournament bracket, he felt something he hadn't felt in a century. Genuine concern. He rose from his throne, the metal groaning under his weight. The hush that fell across the arena was instant. Even the rowdiest gamblers stopped shouting and leaned forward. Everyone knew, when the arena master stood, someone's fate was about to change. Kira Voss, his voice boomed, amplified by the ancient machinery embedded in the walls. Your victories are inconvenient. Across the sands, Kira didn't flinch. She didn't bow. She didn't even acknowledge him beyond a faint grunt. She simply finished tightening her wrist guard and looked up like he was an annoying supervisor interrupting her lunch break. Inconvenient, she called back. Or embarrassing? A ripple of murmurs spread through the alien spectators. Nobody, absolutely nobody, spoke to the arena master like that. His eyes narrowed. You have upended every prediction model. The audience now believes a human can win the Crimson Pits. That is a problem. Kira spat blood into the dust. Sounds like your models need updating. The arena master signaled, and a towering gate began to rise. The arena floor shook hard enough that sand cascaded from the stands. The lights dimmed. The smell of ozone thickened in the air. I will not allow a statistical anomaly to compromise the integrity of my arena, he growled. Your next opponent has never been summoned in a mid-tier bracket, but you leave me no choice. Behind the gate, something massive exhaled. A rattling, predatory sound that made the front rows recoil. Kira rolled her shoulders. Good. I was getting bored. The arena master smiled, slow and cruel. Then faced the Devourer of Suns, and let the galaxy witness the limit of humanity. Kira cracked her knuckles. Limit? You're about to learn humans don't come with one. The gate fully rose, and the creature behind it stepped forward, slowly, deliberately, as if savoring the fear radiating from the crowd. It wasn't 12 feet tall. It wasn't 20. It scraped the archway at nearly 30 feet, its silhouette a shifting mass of plated void black armor. Its body looked carved from collapsed star matter, and faint lines of molten gold throbbed through its carapace like veins full of liquid fire. The Devourer of Suns. Every alien species had a name for it. Every name translated roughly to, do not get near it. Kira's breathing stayed steady, though her pulse thumped like war drums beneath her skin. She scanned its stance, limb structure, balance distribution, heavy frontal plating, rear leg articulation, quadrupedal, but capable of bipedal bursts. Jaws designed for crushing, not slicing. Weak points not obvious. That figured. The arena master's voice slithered across the intercom. This being has ended empires. Entire moons were evacuated just to avoid its migration path. Humanity, however, delights in arrogance. So we test your legend here and now. The Devourer roared. A sound so deep the sand lifted off the ground in vibrating waves. Aliens in the lower stands clutched their ears as their vision blurred. Kira simply lowered her stance. The creature lunged. Its first step cracked the arena floor. The second launched it like a meteor. Kira rolled, barely avoiding a claw the size of a car. The impact threw a shockwave that slammed her across the arena, armor scraping stone. She recovered mid-slide, dug her fingertips into the dirt, and forced herself upright. "All right," she muttered. "You hit like a continent." The Devourer turned, eyes like collapsing galaxies focusing on her. It charged again. Kira sprinted toward a shattered column, vaulted onto it, rebounded off a wall, and sprang upward, landing on the creature's spine. Her knives flashed. Sparks flew. The blades didn't even scratch the armor. The Devourer arched violently, tossing her into the air. For a heartbeat, she was weightless. Then a massive limb slammed her downward. The world exploded into pain. The crowd gasped. Kira rolled, coughed blood, staggered to her knees. "Okay," she rasped. "Plan B." She raised her fists, not in defiance, but in calculation. Because now she understood. The armor wasn't the weak point. The heat inside was. Kira's mind raced. The Devourer's molten veins pulsed faintly beneath its black armor. Each strike she'd endured radiated heat along those lines. If she could redirect, disrupt, or overload that energy, she might gain a small, but vital, advantage. She sprinted toward the nearest arena pillar, leaping and kicking off the fractured surface to land on the creature's massive shoulder. Sparks erupted from the contact as molten seams cracked slightly under the pressure. Her knives barely bit, but she wasn't there to cut. She was there to provoke a reaction. The Devourer hissed, the sound a superheated vacuum. Its immense head twisted, tracking her movements. Every step she took, every motion it anticipated, but she wasn't moving blindly. She danced between its limbs, always watching, always calculating. One misstep, and she would be pulverized. She vaulted to the spine again, this time grabbing a small ridge of hardened plate with both hands. Using the momentum, she twisted sharply, aiming her elbow at a glowing seam along its shoulder. The impact was perfect. A pulse of energy discharged through the seam. The Devourer screamed, more a distortion of reality than sound. Its movement faltered. The heat surging through its body sparked small eruptions along its armor. Steam hissed from every joint. Kira didn't wait. She leapt off, rolling in the sand and using the debris to mask her next move. She sprinted, zigzagging, keeping the creature's attention while observing its reaction. Every pulse from the molten veins was now a roadmap, a pattern she could exploit. The arena floor was cratered. Smoke and dust filled the air, reducing visibility to near zero. The crowd was silent, collectively holding its breath, and Kira smiled faintly, tasting blood and dust. She had learned something crucial. Strength mattered, but control, analysis, and adaptation mattered more. Humans didn't rely on sheer force. They relied on cunning, creativity, and relentless observation. She glanced up at the trembling Devourer. Its movements were slower now, reaction time fractionally delayed. That fraction was all she needed. "Time to finish this," she muttered. Her fists clenched. Her eyes glowed with quiet determination. She wasn't just fighting. She was teaching the deadliest creature in the galaxy a lesson it would never forget. Kira took a deep breath, centering herself. The arena trembled beneath the Devourer's massive weight, but she didn't flinch. Every scar, every bruise, every laceration she bore from Rathuun and the arena's trials had taught her one thing. She could endure more than anyone expected. She circled the Devourer, eyes fixed on the molten seams that pulsed like veins of living fire. Timing was everything. One wrong step, one misjudged distance, and she would be ground into the arena dust. But one correct strike, delivered precisely, could cripple it entirely. The creature lunged, a boulder of claws and muscle. Kira ducked low, rolling beneath the swing and planting her feet on the scorched ground. Using the momentum, she vaulted against the side of a fractured pillar, propelling herself high onto the Devourer's spine. Sparks erupted where her boots scraped the molten armor. She climbed, fast and deliberate, fingertips gripping molten ridges. Her eyes traced the flow of heat along the seams. Every pulse, every vibration told her the exact sequence of internal energy surges. And then she saw it, a faint, flickering node at the junction of its shoulder and spine. Tiny, almost imperceptible, but it was vulnerable. She struck, hard. Her knife drove into the seam, shattering the glowing node. The Devourer screamed, not in anger, but in agony. Its movements became erratic, the rhythm she had memorized thrown into chaos. Heat erupted from the seams like miniature volcanoes. The arena shook. Spectators stumbled. Dust and molten sparks filled the air. Kira leapt clear as the creature convulsed. Using its own momentum, it slammed into the arena wall, cracking stone and sending debris flying. It roared, staggering, smoke trailing from every joint. She landed gracefully, chest heaving, ribs screaming in protest. Her eyes locked onto the Devourer. Slowly, deliberately, it lowered its massive head, submitting. The roar diminished into a low, guttural rumble. A surrender, not of pride, but of acknowledgement. The arena fell silent. Not a single alien spoke. Even the betting boards went dark, as if the system itself couldn't process the outcome. Kira wiped blood from her lip. Her arms shook. Her legs burned. But she stood tall. The arena master's voice echoed, tense and almost reverent. This is unprecedented. Humanity has not only survived, it has dominated. Kira exhaled slowly. Then the lesson is over. For the first time in history, a human had not only survived round one of the Crimson Pits, but had rewritten the rules of the arena itself. The arena trembled with disbelief. Aliens from every corner of the stands stared at Kira Voss, struggling to comprehend what had just occurred. A human, fragile by all their calculations, had bested Rathuun the Breaker and the Devourer of Suns, creatures that no species dared challenge without exoskeletal reinforcement, bioenhancements, or psychic dampeners. The arena master descended slowly from his observation platform. His armored frame gleamed in the fractured lights of the arena, his eyes locked on her. Every step he took sent tremors across the floor, but his posture was different now. Less domineering, more cautious. He stopped before her, silent for a heartbeat, then spoke. "Kira Voss," he said, voice low but carrying through the stadium, "you have shattered centuries of assumption. You have rewritten every expectation. Humanity is no longer a question of survival. It is a force." Kira straightened, blood and dust streaked across her armor, chest heaving. She glanced at the fallen titans behind her. Every bruise, every cut, every strain in her body screamed exhaustion, but her eyes were alive with triumph. "I didn't rewrite anything," she said simply. "I just fought like a human. Adapt, observe, endure, and never accept a preordained outcome." A murmur swept through the crowd. Then another. Aliens whispered, gesturing to one another. Even veteran fighters turned to gape at the human who had done the impossible. The betting boards flickered back to life, but now her name dominated every screen. Kira Voss, human, champion of the Crimson Pits. The arena master extended his hand, a gesture unheard of in the gauntlet. Respect, acknowledgement, and perhaps a measure of fear all wrapped in one. Kira paused, then shook it firmly. She didn't gloat. She didn't taunt. She had proven her point. From the stands, whispers became cheers. They weren't celebrating a single victory. They were witnessing the birth of a legend. A human legend. A reminder to the galaxy that humanity thrived where others feared to tread. Kira looked out at the assembled species, and for a moment, The weight of centuries of doubt, prejudice, and expectation pressed on her. But then she smiled. The galaxy had assumed it knew humans. It had assumed humans were fragile, predictable, and irrelevant. Kira Voss had shown them otherwise. And somewhere deep in the observation decks, High Command and scouts across a dozen star systems took note. Humanity wasn't just a participant in galactic affairs. It was a game changer. As the crowd erupted, Kira raised her fists, not in triumph over her enemies, but as a symbol of resilience, ingenuity, and the enduring spirit of species that refuse to be underestimated. The legend of Kira Voss would echo through the stars. The Crimson Pits would never be the same, and the galaxy would never forget. Humans fight differently, and that difference is lethal.